Yesterday just opened the floodgates of new evidence on the supposed Persona 3 remake, so I've decided it's time to compile the entire timeline and circumstantial evidence into this video. And by the way, I still use the word evidence lightly since nothing has been officially confirmed by Atlus yet. So I want to briefly go all the way back to the beginning with the first real rumor posted on Reset Era back in September 2022. The user LowlyLowLaylo, who I'm just gonna call LowlyLow, claimed this remake would have Persona 5 level graphics and quality of life improvements. This person is apparently an Xbox insider who correctly leaked that ports of P5R, P4G, and P3P would be coming multi-plat prior to any official announcement from Atlus, and before that, he correctly leaked P4AU ports. LowlyLow doubled down on these exact P3 remake rumors in January this year, and not only that, but a couple weeks later, another more sus to me user, I'm a Hero 2, claimed that this project, as well as P6, was pretty far in development. That's the last we really heard of any P3 remake rumors in particular until yesterday, Easter Sunday, when the Persona 3 remake rumors resurrected in newfound glory. A 20-second clip from a supposed 2021 internal SEGA Japan meeting leaked on Twitter. The Yukari clip on its own I can understand being skeptical of, but the fact that it's shown right alongside Sonic Frontiers and Jet Set Radio footage, I don't know, I feel like you can't make this up, guys. Though, to be fair, I haven't played Sonic Frontiers myself, but I've seen plenty of people who have point out that this unseen early game footage makes sense. And as for a Jet Set Radio remake, Bloomberg already reported back in April of last year that this was in development at SEGA. Plus, the clip matches up with blurred images that were leaked in the past. Now, I get it. Even though multiple different series seem to be corroborating each other here, it still seems a little too good to be true, right? Well, I don't know. Let's pick apart the actual Yukari clip. Now, this background catch is thanks to some eagle-eyed viewer, get it? Which appears to be an update of Arca block from OG Persona 3's Tartarus. Not to mention this enemy appears to be a Venus eagle that's found in this very section. So if this really was some fan edit, they really went out of their way when it comes to attention to detail. But this wasn't the only thing that leaked yesterday. A couple hours later, someone discovered a domain name labeled P3RE that was registered on March 15th. And guess what? The address matches up with the ones that were registered for Persona 5 Royal and Strikers years ago. And lastly, Gematsu themselves tweeted that while they can't verify the actual footage itself, it's to their understanding that a Persona 3 remake has been in development for several years. Again, any one of these things on its own would be pretty sus, but all of this together sure is a lot of circumstantial evidence. Now, this next part of the video is much more speculative territory, plus some of my thoughts I've never shared publicly, but I'd like to do so now because, damn it, I admit I'm freaking basic and can't help but perk up at the rumor mill and everything floating around it, okay? I just like speculation, okay? So yeah, let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. Anyway, I'll be breaking this down into 3 main points. The first being that I started leaning towards the side of P3 Remake being real once the portable port launched back on January 19. It was honestly jarring seeing P3P get such half-assed treatment compared to Golden and Royal's ports. I mean, it got none of that careful upscaling that Golden did, and Portable's audio quality was just unacceptable. I get that many people have pointed out how Atlus doesn't have the greatest track record when it comes to ports, but it just seems so egregious to me that if the Persona 3 portable port was all we were gonna get as a modern way to play Persona 3, how could Atlus do this to a mainline Persona game? Their darling series, for better or for worse. So yeah, I was much more skeptical of the remake rumors prior to the port, but afterwards, I really started to think the P3P port was some kind of makeshift band-aid. Which leads me to my second main point, that it wouldn't have surprised me if Atlus had something else in the works instead, or in addition to, that they were gonna announce at the closing Super Live concert to Persona's 25th anniversary. For those unaware, Atlus has historically announced new games at their live concerts. But yeah, development seems to have been behind schedule, so they decided to hold off on announcing something big like P3 Remake, or Persona 6, or both. And to save face, especially considering how popular Persona 3 is in Japan, they could have just hastily slapped the P3P port together for the anniversary. Like, I get that we got the announcements for the ports months prior before the actual concert in October, but seeing how careful Atlus has been with announcements since 2017 onwards, or in other words, post-Re-Fantasy and SMT5, since everything since then, like Royal, Strikers, Soul Hackers 2, have been released around 6 months after their announcements. So it's likely they knew months prior to the concert that development wouldn't be up to par for official announcement. Which leads me to my third and final point. Now, I get to most people, it seems counterintuitive, especially for business, to release a port only to announce a remake just months after. But I think Persona 3 in general is its own special case, because first, there were clear quality issues with the port despite official interviews stating they thought it was good. I can't help but speculate that it's partly a bluff. But an even bigger problem to me is that Persona 3 Portable's visual novel presentation just simply doesn't hold up for the average JRPG gamer in this day and age. This is coming from someone who loves VNs, by the way. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad we have P3P in some easily playable form for those who won't emulate, and I really think it had potential to reach the non-standard JRPG crowd, like the Otome game audience that I talked about in my video up in the cards. But the VN presentation's general lack of appeal still stands. So as disappointing as this sounds, it also wouldn't surprise me that they decide to just cut the FEMC route from a supposed remake to save valuable time and resources creating more ground-up assets. In other words, they'd only focus on getting the male MC's complete Fez route out, so including the Answers narrative, while also making sure P3P was playable on all modern platforms so those who wanted to see the FEMC route could do so. Sure, call my rationalization copium if you want, but that, alongside all this evidence that was leaked yesterday, just seems too circumstantial to me. I think it's also fair to point out that Persona 3 tied with Persona 2 as the most wanted remake in Atlus survey. So it seems less of an if and more a when will they announce this Persona 3 remake. Though I really want to make this clear that all of this should still be taken with a grain of salt, and don't put all your eggs in one basket so as to be disappointed in the end if this P3RE ends up being some spin-off instead, like Persona 3 and Resident Evil. For the record, I really don't think Persona 3 needs a remake. Fez is still my favorite Megaton game. But hey, if a remake is coming, I'll gladly take it as a Persona 3 stan. But what do you guys think? Is this enough circumstantial evidence to you? Be sure to check out all my other Persona videos and give this video a like if you liked it. It always helps with the YouTube algo. And check out all my other socials. And finally, I want to give a huge thanks to all my patrons, especially to Big Clingy, Sam Bezjack, Francisco Santoyo Rego, M. Meownalin, Platinum Rose, Malcolm Lowry, Unholy Biscuit, Leviathan 8685, Eden Korsef, Kavanik, Peter Shepard, James Adams, and Andy.